Welcome back, everybody. Sibusiso Ndzalama's latest book, titled Nefertita, It's in the Past, I Am in the Present, is a novel that takes the reader on a journey of renewing and evolving the mind so that we can become a better version of ourselves. This book is inspired by true events, following the story of Nefertita and how she managed to bury her painful past by starting to live in the present, where she believes her power is limitless. Sibusiso Ndzalama joins us now on Zoom for a conversation about this offering. Sibusiso, a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning to you too. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good stuff. Good to have you on the show on this morning, Sibusiso. First of all, talk to us about Nefertita. You say that it's inspired by true events, yeah?
Yes. So the thing is, Nefertita it was supposed to be based on a true story, but then I kind of changed it because there's a person who has encountered these things, so I couldn't be able to get to them because it was secondary traumatization. So I made it more like it's inspired by that story in which actually happened. It's just that I changed a few scenarios that happened. So it's a girl who lives in South Africa. So she was facing these things. And then I actually got into a position where I was talking to her and I actually helped her, get through some things, mentally speaking. So yes, it's based on a true story, but then inspired by one.
Yeah. And I'm quite intrigued by the book's cover. Talk to us about it.
So what's happening is that you see a girl looking forward, and then she's moving forward, and then the sun is rising. When the sun is rising, it means that it's a day to begin something new. It's about new beginnings. And then when you look at the grass down there, green represents renewal. So it's always constant renewal of the mind. So the thing is, each and every day, each and every time, we have things that evolve, we have things that upgrade. We have iPhone 14 now because everything is constantly upgrading. So it's the same thing with the mind. It should constantly keep upgrading because the person there on the cover page keeps going forward regardless of what happened to them in the past. So they are mindful of what's happening in the present and they keep moving to the future. Everything starts into the future. Yeah.
Got you. Interesting. Interesting indeed. And you say that this book is written to be the solution to people's thoughts and feelings that often seem permanent. Yeah? What do you mean by that?
What I've realized about the mind is that emotions are the ones that run everything in our minds, because emotions are end products of past experiences. So what happens is that as we repeat emotions that are attached to the past, these emotions become our predictable future emotions. So if you can control your emotions, you can actually control your thoughts, because emotions control thoughts. Just like when you wake up in the morning, if you wake up feeling sad, you're going to start thinking sad and then you start feeling sad. It's kind of a cycle. But then if you get into a position where you can control your thoughts, you can actually dictate thoughts in order for you to get into a position where you dictate emotions. So if you can control emotions, you can control your life, because emotions is that very thing that controls everything in our lives.
Let's talk about the main character in the book, Nefertita. Who is Nefertita? Tell us more about her and the events that she goes through to renew and sort of evolve her mind.
Okay, so Nefertita is a little girl, but then she grows up. She's just like every other person who exists. She has faced a lot of things. She has faced anxiety. She has faced depression. She has faced trauma because she was being raped by both her dad and uncle, based on a true story. But then, so these are the things that feel indelible to the mind. And then you start feeling that these are thoughts and emotions that you'll never get rid of. So I was just creating this character in which faces everything, faces all these things that seem permanent, that have to do with thoughts and emotions. So this girl was raped. Okay, when a person is raped, they encounter trauma all their lives. These flashbacks keep repeating as if the whole thing is actually happening in real time. And then these things cause anxiety and then depression. And then you start being pessimistic about life instead of optimistic. So this is actually a character in which encounters these things in order for her to get into a position where she becomes the better version of herself. So it's basically that.
You know, Sbu, you say that if we think our past is bad, then Nefertita's part is even worse, and yet she still managed to bury it, yeah? And I'm reading into what you've just said, you know, about the ability to control one's thoughts.
So I made sure that the encounters that Nefertita encounters are very bad. You know, some people think that we have bad pasts. You know, but then so with Nefertita, I actually wanted to create something that has this perception that yeah, this person actually encountered something that is very worse. You know, so I looked for rape, the worst kind of it. I looked for rape. I looked for being molested. I looked for everything that's bad, everything that people think that they'll never overcome. And then I was like, okay, let me just put it this and then dress this character. And then everybody will actually get into a position where they believe that it's possible. It's just that I was trying to create a journey of possibilities because people think that it's impossible to change the past. You can actually change the past because in the past, you don't have any control whatsoever. But then in the present, you have the power that you have is actually limitless. So when you are in the present, you actually get into a position where you get to control everything. So her past is worse, very worse. But then I actually got into a position where I was like, okay, everybody is actually gonna learn from these things because people learn explicitly and implicitly. So I was like, okay, everybody's gonna be learning these things. And then I was like, yeah, that's it. Her past is worse, I'm telling you, because of the encounters that encountered. But then that's basically it. People are gonna be helped by these experiences that she faced.
And I see, Sbu, that this book also touches on and highlights the art of habit replacement. So how does this element find expression in this book? How did you bring it out?
So on a daily basis, our minds, you know, they focus on 2,000 bits of information.
Yeah.
So these 2 bits of information is the information that we are unconsciously focusing on. It's called the reticular activating system filter. So the mind is able to filter out some information. The information that the mind filters out is the information that we actually don't agree with. So the thing is, it's just like when you go on social media, you get into a position where you see a lot of posts, but then you agree with posts that you are emotionally attached to. These are the things that you pay attention to. So with the reticular activating system filter is that, let's say you buy a shirt that's black and then it's written Farrakha here. So when you go out in the world, you're going to look for shirts that are black that are written Farrakha. It's just that you are unconsciously focusing on that very thing because of repetition. If you repeat something, you actually get into a position where you focus on it. The mind is actually going to focus on it and then it's going to filter everything else out. It filters in only the information that you agree with or the information that you are emotionally attached to. So this is called the reticular activating system filter. Each and every person on earth has created this filter unaware. So in this book, I was just trying to make sure that we actually create this whole thing aware, because most of the times we accept our lives, don't really create our lives. So with this book, it's just matter of creating your own life, you're structuring your own life from an emotional point of view and from perception point of view. So that's basically it.
You know, I quite like the fact that, you know, you're able to so craftily manage to focus on the mind and its inner workings through this book. How do we get a copy of it?
You can get a copy from my Instagram at Sibusiso Ndzalama. And then I actually created a page for this book. It's called Nefertita Novella, because it's a novella. So a person can text me on Instagram, and then we can actually arrange how the whole thing is going to be purchased.
All right. Sibusiso, great chatting to you, man. All the best. And this is such a great book.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That was a Sunday morning guest author, Sibusiso Ndzalama, and he's been speaking to us about his novel titled Nefertita.